Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here with the legendary Oscar Stagnaro, who is... You are, man. I've been following you for years.
Wow.
And Oscar is one of the, main guys in the Berklee faculty, and you tour still, not just teach, but you need to play regularly as well, and you've played with some of the some amazing stars. But how did you actually get into this racket in the first place? Was it always bass you were into? Did you come from a musical family? How did you get into it?
All right, this is funny, what I'm gonna say. I started playing bass in an acoustic guitar because back in Peru with my brother Ramon, that is a guitar player, we used to play surf music. Do you know what
surf music? Yeah.
Do you know the Ventures? That's way long time ago. Yeah, so my brother used to play first guitar, and there was another accompanying guitar, and then I was designed to, punished to play the bass. An acoustic bass.
On an acoustic guitar, but with the 4 strings.
Yeah, well, with the 16-bit, but we didn't have we didn't have money at that time to buy instruments, and back in Peru was very expensive to buy an instrument, so we have all acoustic guitars all the time.
Yeah.
So then we started playing Wipeout and Walk Don't Run and Apache. And tunes, Yeah. So slowly we move on to more like American rock, like Santana. So we have a cover band that play Grand Funk.
Oh, right,
So we move on Santana, Grand Funk, we're moving on like that.
Yeah, and how old are you at this point?
16, 17, 18,
And then, obviously you teach in Berklee now.
Yes.
When did you get your first bass? And when did you decide this is, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, so that's our second, the continuation. I got a Italian bass in a violin shape called Echo. I don't know if you know those.
My first guitar was an Echo guitar.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Action like this, I can
action
remember,
like that. And only the 3 notes, the first 3 frets work and tune. All the rest is like...
unplayable,
It lasted 2 years. So we start working and making a little breads and so on. Then I move on to a copy of a Hofner. Another violin is like a Klira. That's a German bass.
Yeah, right, okay.
Then I got an Ibanez, a Japanese Ibanez in that time, which also the intonation and so on. But in 1975, I got a used precision bass.
Got you.
And that was And
were you working at this point?
Yes.
As a musician?
Yes,
in Peru? And were you always going to be a musician? Do you think it was just in your blood, or?
Well, my dad was not a musician, but my brother and I, we are both musicians, so it's funny the way, somebody in the family have all these genes before, so it was very cool. And with my brother, we did a lot of recording jingles and play with the quartet, big bands and so on. So we have
in Peru,
back in Peru, from 70 to 79, so that's when I moved to the States.
What was the scene like in Peru? Was it a big scene?
At the time it was great, we have great musicians that I learned a lot from them, I didn't know how to read. My first recording was a jingle, and they only have one stop on the first beat. And I mess it up all the time. And we were recording live, 15 people.
Oh, no!
All the horn players read it, and I have to stay there with the drummer, a friend of mine, that says, okay, run the track, and then stop! And I stopped, that was it, because I couldn't count. I just read the chord symbols, and I could have the feel, but then I decided to go to the conservatory in Peru.
Right, okay, when did you go there?
That's 1971.
And how old were you then?
22, I guess, 21.
Was it kind of I need to get my shit together, I'm going to get serious about this?
Yeah, so I learned the concept of how to study and the concept of everything that you have to learn has a discipline, a way to do it.
Yeah.
So you cannot skip steps.
Yeah.
So you have to go half note, quarter note, note,
absolutely.
And then everything together, It's like when you start first putting words together, you get the vowels and the consonants, and somehow they mix. The same thing with it.
Before you went to music school, were you interested in South American music? Or were you still rocking out on the surf stuff?
Yeah, well, probably 99% of the bass players, we start with rock, I'm guessing, There's just a few go or discover jazz before rock, because, at that time, rock was huge. And it also, the rock movement in Peru in the 70s was huge. We have a lot of bands that we play on Sundays. At the movie theaters, we have a whole marathon of 6, 7 bands right in the other one. You know, so we just play there and just have fun. But then when in 1975, actually, a friend of mine brought a cassette that had a Jago's Teen Town and then Stanley Clark's Spain. And that was it. You know,
and you were in music school by that point, right?
Yeah. But you know, but at that time we have a military government for like 69 to 79. So the American music was gone in a way.
Not allowed.
So whatever rock we have was the surviving rock, and they slowly fade out as well. So in the radios, they start fading out all American.
So they didn't play any American music at all?
Once, yeah, it was very hard.
And how long was that for?
Like 6 years first. And then the guy that was the president there, then he passed away. And another guy with a different mentality, he started opening up again.
Right, okay, you know? So it's like an underground thing, you know? Hey, have you heard this band?
Yeah, because we have to wait until like a purser from one of the airlines brought something for a guy. And the guy said, oh man, I got this CD.
Like, like 50 like drugs.
Yeah, or books as well, you know.
Cassette smuggling.
Yeah. So that's when I said, after listening to Stanley Clark and Jago, I want to play like that. I said, yeah, sure, but it's not easy at all. It will take another lifetime to be able to accomplish a little bit of what they play.
And is that when because it was around 75, you ended up moving to the States?
And right? I moved to the States in 1979.
And were you were you a professional musician at that time in Peru?
Yeah, I studied from 70 to 72. I studied industrial engineering for 2 years. Yeah. But then I get out and then I started playing nightclubs. Yeah. You know, then I went to an orchestra and I started to read. So I used to be a sub for a lot of dance bands. So I mainly play with a band called Black Sugar, but I'm friends with all the bass players. So I mean, everybody needed a sub at that time. So I was moving from different orchestras and reading.
And what style of music were you?
In order to work in Peru, you have to flares like top 40s, salsa, and music from Peru. So you have to, you have to be very.
So that whole sort of like South American thing was it was all happening there.
Yeah. If not, you won't. I mean, you won't work.
You're not going to work. No. Yeah. So when you moved in 1979 to the States, where did you go?
I went to Boston. Yeah.
Did you go to Berklee?
No,
you didn't.
Berklee, no.
So why did you move to Boston?
Because my wife was there.
You were chasing a lady.
Yeah, I was chasing her. Yeah. Yes.
Amazing. And it just so happened that Berklee was open in that.
Yeah. We were going together for 5 years before she moved to the States. But she was the one that told me, I know that if I don't go, you're never gonna leave Peru.
Yeah. And what was it like when you got to Boston?
I went there in February.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And my wife says,
nice. Said, did she warn you? Did she like, I've got something to tell you.
I asked her, what's the weather there? It's like, it's 28. I said, 28? Okay, great. Because in Latin America, it's 28 Celsius.
I
was 28 Fahrenheit.
She was saying Fahrenheit.
But she never mentioned Fahrenheit. It's 28. So I went there and it's like, whoops, like snow. No. So I cried like 2 months. I wanted to go back.
Oh, did you want to go back?
Because I went with no bass because the visa. It's a little.
Oh, you are joking! So you turned up. It was like 28 Fahrenheit. It's freezing. No bass. Did you think to yourself, I'm just going to be a professional musician. I'm going to go do it in Boston?
Well, the challenge was like in Peru. I was already reached the ceiling, and the only thing left in Peru is or write jingles or have your own dance band.
Yeah.
Because teaching, there is no way that you could survive. So she saw that before me. I was happy playing every night, forever. Yeah. But the money that you will make, it wouldn't be enough to support a family, for example. But so she was aware of it, and then she went out.
Did you have any kids at this time?
No.
She had a master plan. I'm seeing this master plan emerge. She's like, he needs to get some more money. We're moving to Boston.
Yeah, but then in Boston, I met great people. I learned a lot from the beginning, because when you are living in in a country like mine that doesn't have that much access to education, first of all. So once you see people performing live in another level, it's like lesson every night,
And was it a better higher level in Boston?
Yeah. Kids like 18, 19-year-old playing great all the time. Victor Bailey I saw Victor Bailey when he just went to
Oh, really?
To Boston.
Was he in Berklee?
Yeah, 18-year-old. And I was like, wow. What is this? when they started, like 2 centuries ago.
Yeah, because I suppose like, obviously there was no internet back then, so you couldn't really do any research in terms of like finding out what Boston was like. You moved there totally cold.
Zero.
You
No,
didn't
I
know
didn't
what
know
it was like.
anybody.
Or anything. Yeah. And what did you do? Like, did you start going to jam sessions? Did
I
you
went to
pick up
Berklee.
the phone? You went to Berklee.
Yeah, I went to Berklee, and then I stayed for a morning listening to the bass department lessons. I said, I didn't know this, I don't know that. Just checking out what I know, what I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I started meeting people. My English was very, I have zero, Even though I studied English in Peru, but once you listen to an American guy talk, one word.
Especially in Boston, like Boston's quite a thick accent as well, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So then I was lost, and I thought I could understand. Forget it.
And how old are you at this point?
25.
25.
Yeah.
So you went to Berklee, but you didn't actually enroll or anything like that. You were just hanging out there, checking out the players.
Yes, and then I played with a lot of people from there because I could read, and I, met some Spanish guys, and then I started playing in Latin. Somehow people see in you somebody that they can trust. If they give you the music, you're gonna learn it, and then you're gonna do a good job. And then you build up your prestige slowly. And that's something that I always tell the students. No matter how good you play, you have to build up your prestige.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without that, there's no way that you're gonna go.
Yeah.
So and then keep the prestige is even harder.
Yeah.
You lose it. You could lose it right away.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been the norm for me for all these years, and learn as much as I can. Ask questions. I always ask questions to people that I see playing, and I'm not afraid or asking me, how you put your finger here, whatever, because it's important to listen their approach. I mean, for my generation was so hard that you have to create your own lessons at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have to analyze how far, they are not in the same level, like reading or a slap or time or improvising.
Yeah.
So you have to do like a self-analysis of your music performance and your music abilities, and then make a plan. That's what I did.
That's what you did, yeah. And who were you listening to at that time?
I wanted to play like Larry Graham solo like Jack and read like Anthony Jackson.
Hey, it's good to aim high.
I said, okay, I want to play Young Steps. Okay, I wanted to play this. So I started looking for teachers that have that information. So I studied with Jerry Begonzi, great teacher, great player.
And what were you learning from Jerry Begonzi, like harmony and improvisation?
The concept of how to study. That because you have so many books now, so much information, but you don't really know how to take it, what to do with it. And then I started with a piano player that plays like Bill Evans because I love Bill Evans and I wanted to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So I studied a lot of the arpeggios and things like, he thought that I was like a virtuoso. So, okay, 203 scales and Dorian. It's like, come on, man, can't do that. All keys for tomorrow. But in that sense, that makes a good challenge.
Yeah.
Because that's what, if he didn't know that I have some ability to learn that, he wouldn't send it.
Yeah, he wouldn't give you impossible
whole notes at 40, and then, but he says, okay, let's do it.
And were you studying with any bass players as well?
No.
So it's just, Jerry Begonzi, for everybody that's watching or listening, is a sax player.
Yeah.
But
he's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays drums,
and
piano at the same level.
And like in terms of like studying with these guys, like was it a weekly thing? Was it a monthly thing?
Yeah, weekly.
Yeah,
half an hour.
So you were still really like tuned into honing your craft as a musician.
Yes, but when I was studying with the piano player Mike Mara, my first gig in Boston was with a country or western band.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? I played that for 9 months.
Or was it a regular gig?
Yeah, regularly. So we traveled Maine, Vermont, and
Willie
in a van. What I did, I tell you, I took a lesson with Bruce Gertz. That was one of the first lessons.
Bruce Gertz,
And then one with Jeff Berlin as well.
So Bruce Gertz, guys, still teaches at Berklee, right?
Yes.
Yeah, upright player. He plays electric as well.
Great. Also super dedicated. He has great books.
Yeah.
He plays acoustic great. And Jeff Berlin, he played piano with one hand and the left hand with the walking bass.
What? Seriously?
I was like,
walking bass on the fretboard and he played the chords.
Super talented. And I took only one lesson and said, okay, learn this tune, apply these scales. That's it. That's all I need.
Yeah.
What do you do to learn one tune?
Yeah.
That for me is important to analyze the concept.
Yeah.
It's not about the scales. It's like how to approach, how to study,
how to actually study the stuff. Yeah. It's
and
really
then you figure it out.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, when did you start teaching at Berklee? And when did that transition happen?
Yeah, well, I was start playing with some bands in Boston. We traveled to New York and so on. The usual thing that the Bostonians or Berklee students do after they graduate or in the meantime. So I started meeting people in New York, and then in Boston I played with a band called Tropicalia that was playing like Brazilian stuff, and we opened that time. In that time, Latin jazz was super huge, and then Tania Maria, Michel Camilo, Ayrto, Paquito started playing, and then we opened for them.
Yeah.
So then I met Lincoln Goines. That's another guy that is teaching at Berklee now.
What, Lincoln was already teaching at Berklee, was he?
No,
He wasn't?
Lincoln, he has started teaching like 5 years ago.
Right, okay, yeah.
But he was playing with Michel Camilo, with Paquito, with all with Tania Maria recording.
Yeah.
So then we became friends. He came to my house, and then when Paquito played, and then we played, and then somehow he recommended me to play with Dave Valentin first.
Yeah,
so,
because he did that gig as well, didn't he? Yeah.
So then I started playing with Dave and so on. Then slowly one time that he needed a sub in Boston to play with Paquito, he called me out to sub for him one set. So I did this.
And you're still doing that gig now, aren't you? Yeah.
Don't tell Lincoln. No, he knows. Yeah. But I tell you a funny story about both gigs actually. When Lincoln said, "Man, you want to do this gig because it's going to be a tour in Europe," and Ray Barreto was playing congas.
Yeah.
Great band, So, okay, this is a list, 15 tunes. Okay, where are the charts? No charts. Okay, so I transcribe all the stuff, put a book together that I still have at home with all the titles, and I transcribe all the bass lines. So I go to the rehearsal in New York, and I open the book, and Dave Valentin comes and said, "Man, let me check this. Man, you have more tunes than I ever played." Yeah, it's unbelievable. Says, and so we played 2 tunes, and then rehearsal is over. What do you mean? No. With you, I don't need to rehearse. And he left.
Really?
Yeah.
That 2 tunes. Now let's go on tour.
They trust me. They trust me. Yeah.
Wow.
So we went on tour, and the same thing with Paquito. There was at the Regatta Bar in Boston. I brought my book and I transcribed all the stuff.
Yeah.
And then I go to the rehearsal, and we play a couple of tunes, and Paquito said, "Okay, rehearsal is over." I said, "What do you mean?" Okay. And then he left, went to his room, and then got a jacket, a red jacket that I never wear, of course. That in the back says Havana, New York Ensemble. That was the name of his band. And he gave it to me and said, "Welcome to the Mafia."
Such a great story.
So in those occasions, but that taught me, that you have to be prepared. You have to know the music better than they do if you want to get that gig.
Yeah. Is that something you've always been? Yeah. And it kind of sort of like ties back into that discipline and
Because then everybody trusts you.
Yeah, they don't need to stress about if you're going to do a good job or not. They know that you've got them covered, and they can worry about doing what they do. Instead of everybody else.
You do it because you want to learn and you're going to be efficient. But it's like your professional side, they look at that. But Berklee is funny because I used to play with a club date or GB band, that's what they call it. We play weddings. And then we did 3 or 4 years on the road, the Berklee Christmas party. It's funny. And then the chairman at that time, Rich Appleman, showed up, and the players. But at that time, I was playing around Boston, a lot. So then summer, I think it's 87, a bass player passed away, acoustic player, John Neves. And through the drummer that used to play with this band, that was Dave Wagner, he was a teacher at Berklee and playing with this GB band. He said, "Man, this guy just passed away and they're looking for electric player. Why don't you give it a try?" I said, "No. Yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah, because I wanted to play.
Yeah.
And then I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." Okay, I'll do it. So in Peru, I had a lot of records, vinyl that I recorded. So I prepared, the little thing. And then I called them. They says, "Okay, Mr. Appleman, I heard that Berklee, is looking for a bass player." Okay, he said, "Okay, come next week for a meeting." So I brought all these books, the vinyls, and then I brought a lot of programs. I collect a lot of stuff, so I have all the programs in Peru that I play with these orchestras.
Yeah.
So I brought them in. And then he was with the chairman, with the assistant John Repucci, that he retired a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So they were both sitting there, and I said, okay, so we're looking for this type of bass player. I said, okay, this is what I do, And they look and say, man, there's nobody in the department that has so many records. Yeah, it's funny because I have a lot that I recorded. So I have experience that. Yeah. And okay, so we do what are your intentions and what. And then I said, okay, they told me, come back next week. We'll give you a call next week.
Yeah.
Okay, they called me next day. So, you want to do the gig?
Really? Yeah.
But what is funny is like Danny, Morris, and me, we both got hired
at the same time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's funny.
Yeah.
But
both still there now.
Yeah, we're still there now. But Berklee has helped me out in the sense of they give me freedom to try material.
Yeah.
So the book that I wrote is based on a lot of things that I've done during my teaching at school.
Yeah, because you're working with students every single week, right? So for how many years? 30 years.
Yeah,
okay,
30
so
years,
you've got your teaching chops down, right?
What happened is when I first lesson that I did in a workshop about Latin music, it was too complicated.
Well, what I was going to say is was anybody teaching Latin there?
There was one guy, but he left. But somehow timing is another good thing for bass players. If you had the right timing.
Yeah.
So he left, and I started teaching that class, but in a different way. Because he was just teaching reading.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay,
so reading is fine, but it doesn't help you out or how to improvise in a chord change. Play what I'm gonna play. But when I started teaching, I started too high.
Yeah, too high.
And the guys, they have no idea.
What are you talking about?
It took like 4 or 5 lessons to understand something.
Yeah.
So then so I have to do the research of Cuban music in this case. What was the beginning of Cuban music?
Yeah.
So that, half notes, great. Quarter notes, Because I would say, the tumbao, that's it. There's no way. It's music way before that.
Yeah.
So then the bass part comes from the piano and so on, and then it develops into this song and whatever styles. But then it was very easy to understand the bass timeline, if you want to name it.
Yeah. Okay. The timeline in terms of the development rhythms of the bass lines that were getting played in Cuban music, right? Okay. Yeah.
It's funny, but then you apply that to all styles.
Yeah, because some of them are really funky as well, aren't they? Like there's so much groove, man. Like in terms of if somebody's listening to this and they maybe haven't even heard of some of the basics, and I always tell people that my kind of route into enjoying, or not even just enjoying, but just getting my face blown off in terms of what the heck was that, was the Michel Camilo Big Band. That's the first time I'd heard anything like that. And then after hearing that, I was like, wow, looking for artists, and ended up getting, Lincoln Goines' old VHS video with Robbie Amine.
Yeah, of course.
In terms of artists, what other artists do you think people should check out, just to get a flavour of, of all the stuff that's going on out there?
Yeah, well, not only bass players, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, so you have to check out the composers. In Cuba, I interviewed one time Chucho Valdez, piano player.
Absolutely.
So I said, okay, Chucho, what's the deal here? I said, okay, if you want to learn Cuban music, you have to listen to Ernesto Lecuona, Arsenio Rodriguez from the Son Montuno, Los Van Van, and Irakere.
Yeah.
That will tell you where the history.
Yeah. You're going to hear a kind of sort of a good a spread.
Yeah, because Ernesto Lecuona's compositions, they involve a lot of the Cuban dances from the 1800s. So he has tunes in different keys that are played only for the piano, but you have to be a virtuoso in order to play that by yourself.
Yeah.
Because he has a ostinato bass line that is very complicated against all this other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So then you understand. Now I know you could hear the rhythms on the left hand.
Yeah, because a lot of the rhythms are locking in with the piano, aren't they? And then obviously the percussion as well. There's it seems way more rhythmically not advanced, but kind of advanced than general Western music. Sort of pop funk.
It's like feeling like 10 people talking at the same time.
Yeah, 10 people, but it all interlocking. And I think it's very syncopated, isn't it? It's a really stylistically, there's some places where like I wouldn't naturally feel like downbeats in certain places, and I think it's something that you can probably only get from listening to and playing that, you know, that style of music or those styles of music like you have, and really, you know.
Yeah, but I did a research. It's like, no, you cannot find it on the radio.
Yeah.
You have to know where to do
the actual composers.
Who to look for. And then every style that you gonna try to learn is like 10 bands that they all play different.
Yeah.
So you have to, well, okay, where is the beginning here?
Yeah.
You know?
When you work with students at Berklee, what are some of the common mistakes that you see cropping up?
Well, for me, to develop an identity is super important. You know, because all the influences that you have or that I have are different.
Yeah.
But then it shows when you play. You know, it's the same when you have read books. So, I mean, in this case, Vargas Llosa against or the writers in Latin America, they use different words.
Yeah.
So they become to be part of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
So then you can't control that unconsciously. It comes out when you play. You know.
Yeah.
So you have to be very able to control the vocabulary, the melodic the rhythmic language of each style in order to be as authentic as you can. When you talk about a matter, you talk about the subject, you have to be careful, you know. So it's always like that. It took a long time to develop that, to understand. And it's still taking time because I'm still trying to learn more stuff, trying to learn more harmony, play more piano.
Yeah. Who are you listening to now?
And I listen whatever I can. I actually going back to the identity. I listen to what the students listen.
Right, really, yeah. So they're sort of like saying, have you checked out this?
Yeah, because I was going away, looking to another direction. So I listen to Thundercats. Oh, how this thing works. Okay, great. So listen to all these different bands to understand what they're looking for.
Yeah. And there's never a better time to find new music as well, because it's predominantly free and on the internet for people to listen to on YouTube or Spotify or any of them places.
But I mean, my recommendation is to no matter how much you listen to other players or music, you have to develop your own identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, your own sound. Then it also depends what kind of bass you have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it does, and I think that it's really easy to miss that part. Like I play P basses predominantly, and that's like a big part of my sound. Like I think.
Yeah, but that's what we had in the 70s. You know, 60s, 70s. That's what it was around.
Yeah.
So everybody, even though there was precision, if you hear like Paul Jackson or Rocco Preston, you could identify them.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah. Different touch, different feel.
And even Jacko, you know, so everybody found their own sound.
Yeah,
with almost the same bass.
Yeah. Super interesting. Isn't it? I could talk about
they
this
all
stuff.
sound great.
They all sound great, but they've also got their own personal thing. Yeah. Where can people find you? If they want to come and stalk you online, if they want to come and watch you play, if they're in Boston or something like that.
I have a website, Oscar Stagnaro Music, but I'm in Facebook, you know. I'm also at Berklee, the Berklee website, they can find me. But on the web, if you write Stagnaro at berklee.edu, I'm there.
Yeah. You're on Instagram as well.
Yes, Instagram. Yeah. A little bit. And then I have a bass program in Latin America called Bass en Vivo.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to develop. It's an educational program.
Is that linked to your website?
Yes.
Cool.
Everything's there. Yeah.
Guys, if you want to go check all that stuff out, what we'll do is we'll link to, if you listen on the podcast on iTunes, go to the website, you'll find the page under podcasts, obviously. If you're watching this on YouTube or on the site, the link will be below to Oscar, so you can find out where he's at and go and harass him. Now, we're going to record a course now, so take it easy, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Oscar.
Thanks, man. My pleasure. Thank you.